Pope Leo XIV revolutionary moment. The inauguration that changed everything. On May 18, 2025, as the world watched the inauguration of Pope Leo XIV, something extraordinary happened that no one saw coming. In a single, unscripted moment, the new pontiff shattered centuries of Vatican tradition, not with words, but with an act so profound it left cardinals frozen, security scrambling, and millions around the world in tears. This wasn't just a break in protocol. It was the moment the Catholic Church changed forever. If you're joining us for the first time, welcome. This is where we explore the moments that reshape our world. Hit subscribe and join our community in the comments below. St. Peter's Square was a sea of expectation that morning. Over 100,000 people gathered under a brilliant Roman sky, their eyes fixed on the famous balcony draped in crimson. The atmosphere was electric, a mixture of celebration and solemn anticipation. Inside the sacred halls of the Vatican, preparations had been meticulous. Every movement is choreographed. Every word scripted. Every moment is designed to uphold the grandeur of a 2,000-year tradition. The papal master of ceremonies had rehearsed the ceremony down to the second. The Swiss guards stood at attention, their colorful uniforms a stark contrast against the ancient marble. Cardinals and dignitaries waited in perfect formation. And then the moment arrived. The doors to the balcony opened, and Pope Leo XIV stepped forward into the light. The unexpected turn. What happened next wasn't in the Vatican playbook. As the world's cameras zoomed in, expecting the traditional blessing and address, Pope Leo paused. His eyes scanned the crowd below, not with triumph or authority, but with something that looked remarkably like hesitation. The new pontiff reached down and removed the fisherman's ring, the ancient symbol of papal authority that hadn't yet been formally placed on his finger. With visible trembling in his hands, he handed it to the stunned master of ceremonies. The crowd fell silent. Officials exchanged confused glances. This wasn't part of the plan. Then, instead of stepping to the microphone, Pope Leo moved to the edge of the balcony, a spot where no pope had stood before, where only stone angels kept watch over the square below. And there, surrounded by centuries of pomp and power, he did something revolutionary. He knelt. Not on the prepared red cushion. Not on polished marble. He knelt on raw Vatican stone, cold and uneven beneath his white vestments. The powerful silence. For nearly 2 minutes, an eternity in broadcast time, Pope Leo remained there, completely still. His hands weren't gripping the railing for support or raised in blessing. They were pressed together in front of his chest, as if holding something too precious, too fragile to name. The Vatican's well-oiled machine ground to a halt. No one moved. No one spoke. Cameras that had been poised for grand gestures and formal proclamations didn't know where to focus. Should they zoom in on this unscripted moment of vulnerability? Should they cut away to officials' reactions? There was no protocol for this. In the square below, something remarkable began to happen. People who had come expecting pageantry found themselves witnessing something else entirely. Some bowed their heads instinctively. Others dropped to their knees right there on the cobblestones. Many wept silently. A woman from Brazil later told reporters, "In that moment, I wasn't watching the Pope. I was watching a man remembering what it means to serve." The words that changed everything. When Pope Leo finally rose, his knees were visibly stained with dust. His eyes, when he turned back to the microphone, were not the composed, rehearsed eyes of a world leader. They were moist and searching, like someone who had just walked through a storm. The silence wasn't broken. It was consecrated when he finally spoke. "Before I am Pope, I am a man. Before I bless, I must beg for a blessing. Before I speak, I must listen to the pain of the world." No thunderous proclamation followed. No formal Latin liturgy. Just those words, spoken in a voice that cracked with emotion. But the true shock was yet to come. The descent. According to centuries of tradition, this was the moment when the new pontiff should have turned and re-entered the apostolic palace, following the Swiss guard through ornate bronze doors. Pope Leo XIV did exactly the opposite. With quiet determination, he descended from the platform. Cardinals exchanged alarmed glances. Security personnel touched their earpieces, unsure whether to intervene. The Pope wasn't moving toward the palace. He was moving toward the stairs that led down to the square itself. One witness described the scene. It was like watching someone walk off a stage and into reality. As he reached the square, he didn't move toward the VIP section where world leaders and dignitaries waited. He didn't approach the press corps or the wealthy benefactors. Instead, Pope Leo walked directly to an easily overlooked section near the front, where those in wheelchairs had been gathered. People whose faces showed illness and injury. Bodies marked by suffering. Eyes that had seen more darkness than light. The sacred encounters. When he reached them, Pope Leo did something so human, so unguarded, it stunned even the most cynical observers. He wept. Not for the cameras. Not for effect. Just quiet, genuine tears that spoke volumes about the weight he felt. Then, one by one, he moved among them. He knelt beside a young boy with muscular dystrophy, gently placing his forehead against the child's, whispering words only they could hear. Next came an elderly woman clutching a worn photograph. A soldier, perhaps her son. Without speaking, she placed it in the Pope's hands. Leo closed his eyes, kissed the image, and held her hands for what felt like a sacred eternity. A war veteran from Ukraine, both legs missing, struggled to reach out. Pope Leo knelt, took the man's damaged hand in both of his, and said words that would later spread across continents. You have carried across the world tried to ignore, but heaven has never looked away. Each person received not just a blessing, but time. Not just a gesture, but presence. Not just the Pope, but a man willing to bear witness to their suffering. In the hours that followed, something remarkable happened. The world didn't just watch, it responded. Headlines blazed across screens in every language. Pope Leo XIV chooses dust overthrown, new pontiff stuns Vatican with act of radical humility. A pope who knelt first and left the world speechless. But what happened next went beyond headlines. Across continents, something began to stir. In Manila, nurses in a trauma ward paused their shift to kneel beside patients' beds. In Istanbul, an imam reposted the moment with the caption, "True humility transcends doctrine." A pastor in Alabama told his congregation, "I've preached about servant leadership for years, but today I saw it." Social media became a mosaic of responses. Images appeared of worn knees on wooden floors, candlelit prayers in living rooms, posts that read, "Maybe I still believe. Maybe it's not too late." One young man in Colombia posted a single sentence that resonated with millions. "When I saw the Pope kneel, I remembered my mother. She used to kneel to pray for me when I was lost. Maybe this church is still my home." That message was shared over 4 million times in just 24 hours. Later, when journalists pressed him on why he had broken with centuries of tradition, Pope Leo XIV gave no formal statement, no theological thesis, no politically polished response. He simply said, "I didn't break tradition. I fulfilled it. Because Christ knelt first. And if the church forgets how to kneel, she forgets how to serve. And if I forget the ground, I forget the gospel." That night, after the crowds had dispersed and the cameras had powered down, Pope Leo sat alone in the Room of Tears, the small chamber where new popes traditionally don their vestments for the first time. But he wore no crown, no embroidered stole. Only a simple white cassock, creased and dust-stained from the floor where he had knelt and the square where he had served. There was no audience in that room. No ceremony. Only silence, a crucifix, and the weight of what had begun. He whispered into the darkness, "Mother, teach me how to kneel again tomorrow." Because he understood what the world was just beginning to realize, that the true test of a servant isn't a single act of humility. It's the willingness to repeat it day after day, under weight, without applause. In breaking protocol that day, Pope Leo XIV didn't just alter the rhythm of a ritual. He reminded us all that a ceremony without compassion is just sound with no spirit. That leadership without humility is not direction but performance. He reminded us that real power isn't proven by who stands tallest, but by who kneels first. And now, without fanfare, without demands, he's asking something from all of us. Not a donation. Not applause. A posture. A heart bent toward mercy. Knees that remember the dust they came from and the people still walking in it. Because in this world of platforms, profiles, and endless noise, perhaps the holiest thing we can do is kneel. Not once, not for show, but as a way of life. If this story moved something in you today, share it with someone who needs to remember that love still kneels, that truth still walks barefoot, that change still begins on the ground. Until next time, this is Royal Folder. Thank you for witnessing this moment with us. If Pope Leo's act of humility moved your heart today, join our community by subscribing. Your like matter, and your story in the comments creates a sacred space of shared witness. Together, we honor moments that remind us what truly matters.